The arrival of the Paleo-Indians in the Americas marks the beginning of human settlement across the continents. These early populations gradually adapted to diverse environments, leading to the emergence of distinct and complex cultures. Join us in part 2 of our series as we delve into the rise of culture on the virgin lands of the Americas, built on the back of ingenious practices such as the cultivation of crops. We'll explore the first appearance of the mysterious mound-building culture in Ohio and the oldest signs of civilization on the continents. This is the history of the Americas. From corn to civilization, the emergence of agriculture in the Americas. As the Paleo-Indian period came to an end, early inhabitants underwent a significant transition in their way of life. The disappearance of large megafauna and the need to sustain growing populations forced the migratory hunter-gatherers to adapt. By the Archaic period, which began around 10,000 years ago, these early pioneers had undergone a remarkable transformation. The earliest Paleo-Indians arrived in the Americas during a period of colder and wetter climatic conditions. However, by the Archaic period, the continent experienced significant environmental changes, including a shift toward a warmer and drier climate, which influenced human subsistence strategies and settlement patterns. Notable changes in this transformation included the expansion of prairie vegetation and a decrease in forested areas. This shift in climate heavily influenced the lifestyle and adaptations of archaic peoples, as they were forced to rely on different plant and animal resources. So, much like the major changes to their surroundings, like today, the Native American groups went through their own sort of cultural transition. Now spread across the continents, groups increased in size and transitioned to more of a sedentary lifestyle, preferring to forage from seasonal camps instead of roaming the entire landscape. As they acclimated to their new environments, the archaic Americans sought sustenance in the form of fish, fowl, and wild plants, including seeds. However, all of the latter changes pale in comparison to the most significant development during this period: the appearance of agriculture. This brought about a monumental shift that would have a long-lasting and profound effect on the history of the continents. Large-scale agriculture is often considered a prerequisite for civilization, as it's unlikely that large numbers can be sustained without the means to feed tens of thousands of people. As early as 8000 BC, researchers have discovered evidence of crops appearing in both Mexico and South America. The earliest of these was the humble squash, which remains a staple for many native cultures in the Americas even today. Seeds of this smooth and stringy fruit have been found in caves in Oaxaca and the Tehuacan Valley. As experts continued to study the archaeological record meticulously, they found evidence that clearly showcases how the wild squash seeds increased in size, providing researchers with undeniable proof of incipient domestication. Far to the south of the fertile valleys of Mexico, amongst the majestic, towering peaks of the Andes, we find evidence of the cultivation of beans, potatoes, tomatoes, and peanuts during the Archaic period. But no single crop can be said to have influenced the lives of the ancient Americans quite like the admirable corn plant. The origins of maize take us back to the fertile lowlands of southwest Mexico some 10,000 years ago. Thought to have originated from the wild grass teosinte, maize was modified over time by early horticulturalists, eventually producing the plant we know today. To these early Americans, corn became more of a staple form of sustenance. It was looked upon as a sacred symbol of life and sustenance, deeply intertwined with their spiritual beliefs, and was considered a gift from the gods, shaping their agricultural practices, mythology, and social structure across civilizations. In time, archaic Americans grew certain crops together, such as corn, beans, and squash, and refer to this combination as the Three Sisters, due to their symbiotic growing practices. Utilizing ancient studies of the plants, these early Americans realized the plants mutually benefit each other when planted close by. The corn provides a structure for the beans to climb. The beans add nitrogen to the soil for the corn, and the squash leaves shade the ground, preventing weeds and retaining moisture, creating a symbiotic ecosystem that maximizes yield and nutrition. As growing techniques spread throughout the Americas via extensive trade networks and cultivation became increasingly more prevalent, we saw another drastic change in the lives of humans on the continent. Despite their innate desire to migrate with seasons and explore the entirety of the horizon, the development of agriculture allowed for the creation of permanent settlements. With a reliable food source, it no longer became necessary to move from one place to another in search of sustenance. Instead, groups could settle down in permanent settlements, and those who did eventually experienced a significant increase in population growth. Emerging from this newfound experience, we see the first societies of the Americas. As they grew larger, specialized roles emerged, leading to the development of social hierarchies and different social classes, and eventually, the first civilizations on the continent. A tale of cotton and trade, the first civilization of the Americas. As the sands of time slowly trickled away in the Americas, great leaps of innovation occurred, transforming the early settlers from mere hunter-gatherers to bustling human settlements categorized by agricultural expertise, cultural advancements, and spiritual traditions. The agricultural prowess of these settlers was particularly significant, as it not only provided sustenance but also allowed for surplus production, leading to the establishment of large population centers. With these particular advancements, it was only a matter of time before a fully fledged civilization arose in the Americas, the first signs of which we find along the north-central coast of Peru. Nestled amongst the windswept desert of the Soup Valley in Peru, immense dune-like monuments emerge from beneath the scorched sands. While they appear to be nothing more than the work of Mother Nature, upon further inspection, these mounds of dirt are the last remnants of an ancient pyramid-building culture that existed in the region thousands of years ago. Now known as the Norte Chico civilization, it arose in the region as early as 3,500 BCE. Over time, this primordial American civilization grew to include as many as 30 large population centers, all of which are composed of massive communal buildings, temple-like structures, and pyramids. At the heart of the civilization lay the sprawling city of Caral, which covered a 163-acre astonishing town. Here, we find the awe-inspiring Pyramide Mare, a towering pyramid-like structure that is equal in size to around 4 football fields. The monument has an enormous 30-foot-wide staircase that rises from a sunken circular plaza at the foot of the pyramid, passing over 3 terraced levels until it reaches the top of the platform. Such an extensive building project would have required thousands of manual laborers. On top of this, various architects, craftsmen, supervisors, and other managers would have been necessary to ensure things went smoothly. All of this points towards not only an advanced society or culture, but also the earliest signs of civilization in the Americas. Flanking this mysterious city are the remains of a series of smaller mounds, various buildings, and residential complexes. After meticulously studying the ruins, archaeologists discovered a hierarchy in living arrangements: large, well-kept rooms atop the pyramids for the elite, ground-level complexes for craftsmen, and shabbier outlying shantytowns for workers. To the inhabitants of Caral, the city served as a hub of innovation and technology. Its people built highly advanced irrigation systems, turning a desert into a productive agricultural economy. Archaeologists are sure the Norte Chico culture represents the first complex society in the Americas. It is known as one of the 6 major world areas where civilization developed independently. Other Old World civilizations like Mesopotamia, Egypt, and India traded goods and information with each other. But Norte Chico developed in total isolation from different societies. But this leaves us with one obvious question. How was this possible? Why did the ancient Americans living in Peru succeed when others couldn't? To researchers, the answer lies in the development of these irrigation systems, which played a pivotal role in the cultivation of cotton and other crops and facilitated trade with coastal communities for seafood. Before cotton, fishing nets comprised of plant fibers, which took a tedious amount of time to make and maintain. However, with the tremendous agricultural innovations within Caral, more nets could be made, meaning more fish could be caught. As coastal and inland communities worked together, a bustling society emerged. This resulted in a vibrant economy that required a centralized government, and Caral became the administrative center for the entire civilization. In many ways, the civilization centered at Caral functioned in a manner similar to how society works today. People had specialized yet interconnected roles that benefited one another. Yet, despite the size of the civilization, with as many as 20,000 people living in the valley, there were no signs of defensive construction, weapons, or violence of any kind, meaning some leader or central decision-making group could organize a large workforce in massive construction projects over extended periods through non-violent means. Another significant discovery at Caral was a quipu, a record-keeping device made of a string of knotted ropes. Quipus were used to recover dates, census data, inventory, and tax information. The Caral quipu was the oldest ever found, meaning the Norte Chico people had a reason to record and store data for later use. The culture's remarkable monumental architecture, complex social organization, and sustainable economy based on both agriculture and seafood harvesting stand as a stark reminder of the ingenuity of ancient peoples of the Americas. Nomadic astrologers of the Old World, the first mound builders of the Americas. As the people of Caral paved the way for civilization in South America, far to the north, several distinct cultures were actively engaged in a technological revolution of their own. Among the sprawling grasslands of northeastern Louisiana, nestled on the banks of the Watson Bayou River, we find a complex mystery that extends back over 5,500 years. In present-day Ouachita Parish lies Watson Break, an ancient archaeological site that has long-lasting implications for studying ancient Americans. At the center of this site, we see an intricate network of earthen mounds meticulously constructed by humans many millennia ago. Of these, the largest is known as Mount A to researchers and is approximately 25 feet tall and has a diameter of an astonishing 230 feet. Despite the allure of the site, it has only been further intensified by researchers who revealed a group of distinct hunter-gatherers constructed it who we now know as the Mound Builders. The Watson Break earthworks in Louisiana date back over 5,500 years, making them older than the pyramids of Giza and Stonehenge. However, their precise function remains uncertain, as no definitive evidence of their purpose, such as burials or ceremonial artifacts, have been found. With no burials, few artifacts, or even signs of use after their initial building, the mounds are assumed to have had some ceremonial use, even if it were only a unique exercise in marking group identity or a singular instance of focused coercion. The people who created the Watson Break mounds did not live on the site. Evidence of habitation from the same period in Louisiana indicates the people had not yet developed agriculture in any focused way, and led lives of seasonal settlement. But could a migratory culture without agriculture undertake such a mammoth project? Long-standing theories about how cultures must operate once insisted that large-scale earthworks such as those found at Watson Brake could not be built until hierarchical status systems developed, with chiefs or someone of power to designate labor. In addition, archaeologists theorized that a mound-building society had to be supported by agriculture because it was thought that hunting and gathering could not provide enough sustenance to feed the workers required for mound-building projects. However, in their quest for knowledge, researchers working from Watson Brake, the LSU campus Indian mounds, and other Middle and Late Archaic sites have toppled these ideas. Most mainstream academics now agree that the profound natural resources were abundant enough to support mound builders and that permanent status hierarchies were unnecessary to get the job done. Several minor artifacts have been recovered from the site, shedding a small amount of light on this mysterious culture. Several distinctive and characteristic stone points have been unearthed at Watson Brake, known as the Evans Point. Archaic period toolmakers typically created a single pair of notches up the side of a stone point, which helped fasten the point to a spear. But the Evans point had a curious second pair of notches on the point blade. These additional notches could have provided a more secure fastening, but do not appear on examples in later periods. Other finds include bricks and stone implements, but nothing indicates why these seemingly migratory groups decided to take the considerable amount of time required to create such enormous earthen mounds. While they started small, some kind of formal plan was employed in their construction. Some researchers have noted the existence of a universal system of measurement and geometry. This suggests a profound level of technical skill and intercommunication was present among the Middle Archaic mound builders. Were they constructed as religious monuments that had ongoing spiritual significance? They may have marked the group's identity and reinforced social cooperation, or did they signify the presence of resources in the region in a simple manner? The mystery of Watson Brake continues to intrigue researchers even today, but they are left with more questions than answers. By 2800 BCE, all mound construction at the site had ceased and would begin until the emergence of the Poverty Point culture over 1,000 years later. But this didn't mark the end of mound building in the Americas. Far from the grasslands of Louisiana, we observe the manipulation of the earth into sprawling monuments in places such as Georgia, Mississippi, and Florida, all of which boast incredible sites. While most appear thousands of years after the builders of Watson Brake disappeared, undoubtedly, their builders placed a high degree of significance on these earthen monuments. Being elegantly constructed across a vast swath of land from the Great Lakes to the Gulf of Mexico area over thousands of years, the seemingly unrelated mound builders have yet to reveal all of their secrets to archaeologists. But as time passes, mounds like those at Watson Brake continue to rewrite everything we thought we knew about these ancient Americans. Further study at the site in Louisiana revealed many of the mounds are aligned with the rising and setting of the sun during the summer and winter solstices, suggesting a deliberate astronomical alignment with the stars at the time of its construction. Recent studies suggest that these early societies demonstrated a more complex understanding of astronomy and engineering than previously assumed. Their understanding of astronomy and the movement of celestial bodies could lie at the heart of the mysteries surrounding the mounds at Watson Brake and those scattered across the vast American landscape. The old copper complex of the Great Lakes, North America's primeval miners. As ancient Americans came together in unison under the humid subtropical climate in Louisiana to carefully construct the original mounds at Watson Brake, an entirely different culture was present thousands of miles to the north, one that would ultimately usher in a new technological revolution. The Great Lakes region played a crucial role in this, as it was here that we see the emergence of a unique society characterized by its use of copper. Early humans living in the area likely stumbled upon naturally occurring visible copper nuggets or veins in the Earth's surface, most likely near glacial deposits. As they wandered the plains surrounding the Lake Superior region, these early nomads would have seen large nuggets appearing from near the surface and in gravel beds. Over time, their fascination with the copper nuggets led them to discover how malleable it is and how it can be shaped into form to make a variety of implements, thus marking the start of the Copper Age in North America. Despite varying theories on when humans around the Great Lakes first utilized this precious metal, by 4000 BCE, it had become an integral metal in the daily lives of archaic Americans. Over time, numerous quarries sprang up in areas like Isle Royale, the Keweenaw Peninsula, and the Brule River. Evidence of mining, such as deep holes chipped into the rock, can be found in Ontario, Manitoba, and around Lake Superior. Primitive yet effective techniques were used to extract the copper from the bedrock. Thousands of grooved hammerstones found in and around these prehistoric mining pits support the theory that a significant amount of manual labor was required to extract the copper ore. This evidence underscores the unity and cooperation of early Americans who managed to form cohesive workforces despite their nomadic lifestyle. Another likely technique used to extract the ore was thermally induced shattering, where miners would light a fire beside the desired ore vein, heating the rock surface. Applying water to this hot surface would cause the rock to shatter, making it easier to remove the copper ore. During the early stages of their exploration of this metal, the ingenuity of these groups was truly remarkable. They discovered that they could shape the nuggets into various forms using stone hammers, a process we now refer to as cold working. This was a significant leap in their understanding of metallurgy. As their expertise in metallurgy continued to grow, they learned that heat could soften the material slightly, leading to the development of the fabrication technique known as annealing. Their experiments with the metal eventually led to the discovery of smelting, a process that involves heating the ore to high temperatures to separate the pure copper from the rock. Archaeologists have discovered tens of thousands of copper artifacts in the Great Lakes region, ranging from simple tools to finely crafted items that suggested specialized metalworking skills. These artifacts provide insight into the technological advancements and trade networks of the old copper culture. This has led researchers such as E.J. Neuberger to speculate that old copper complex artisans eventually discovered how to smelt the rock. Archaeologists in the modern refer to these pioneers in the field of metallurgy as the old copper culture, and their innovative methods allowed them to craft a wide range of utilitarian tools like knives, spear points, awls, and axes, all of which demonstrate just how sophisticated their understanding of copper manipulation truly was. Over time, they also began crafting decorative objects such as metal pendants, bracelets, rings, beads, and crescent-shaped ornaments, showcasing another side of this fascinating culture. As the culture developed, copper ornaments likely became symbols of status and social differentiation. However, some investigations into this puzzling culture propose that copper may have even been some form of spiritual significance for these early Americans. As archaeologists meticulously studied the burials of various people associated with the old copper complex, they discovered a varying degree of social differentiation and complexity. The dead were buried with various artisanal items made of copper, suggesting the metal may have evolved to have a symbolic value to these groups. As part of social complexity, long-distance trade networks, and mortuary ceremonial uses, it's clear copper slowly morphed to become the backbone of the copper complex culture and its successors. Looking back at this small window into the past, we see a mysterious culture that profoundly influenced the surrounding region. The advanced metallurgy skills developed by the old copper culture were truly remarkable. Despite being one of the earliest metallurgical traditions in the world, their presence may have faded, but their innovative methods continue to stand as a testament to the complexity of these early Americans and the lasting impact they had on the region. The rise of pottery and a sedentary life in the Americas. In their quest to become masters of the continents, archaic Americans ventured far and wide, experimenting with the landscape and testing the very foundations of Mother Nature. The first signs of agriculture and metal appeared during this iconic era, whilst we also observe monumental cities and religious monuments rising from the virgin grounds. As knowledge spread, dependence on older primitive methods began to dissipate, and between 4,000 and 3,000 years ago, inhabitants of the Americas began to enter a new era known as the Woodland period. This unique period is characterized by an increased level of expertise in horticultural practices, the widespread use of pottery and ceramics, and a sharp increase in groups settling down in permanent locations. Several factors allowed these Native Americans to turn away from a migratory lifestyle, one of which was the advancements in pottery technology, allowing containers to be made in various shapes and sizes for cooking, storing, and serving food. To archaeologists, a Woodland period assemblage would include textile-marked, complicated stamped pottery and triangular points. The Woodland period was a revolutionary period in the long tapestry of American history, bringing with it an increase in cultural complexity, population growth, and technological innovation for many indigenous cultures in North America. Some of the most notable woodland cultures include the Adena and Hopewell cultures, all of which engaged in the widespread practice of mound building, possibly influenced by the mysterious groups who constructed the earthworks during the Archaic period. Emerging amongst the vast plains of Ohio through to the mountainous peaks of West Virginia and beyond to Kentucky and Indiana arose several communities of North America with various similarities, now loosely grouped together as the Adena culture. These early peoples evolved past a migratory lifestyle, instead preferring to settle down in small villages composed of circular houses with conical roofs constructed from poles, willows, and bark. They subsisted by hunting, fishing, farming, and gathering wild plant foods. Their utensils consisted of such items such as stone hoes, axes and projectiles, stone smoking pipes, and simple pottery. The Adena are particularly remembered for their agricultural practices, which enabled their ancestors to transition away from a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. They used tools made of stone, animal bone, and tortoise shells to grow squash, pumpkins, gourds, sunflowers, and maize crops. This shift to agriculture not only provided a more stable food source, but also allowed for the development of more complex societies and the establishment of trade networks. This ancient culture also had an extensive trade network linking them with other indigenous groups from the Great Lakes region in the north to the Mississippi River Valley in the west, and encompassing parts of present-day Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, and even extending into parts of the southern Appalachian Mountains, allowing them to access materials like copper, mica, and marine shells from distant regions. The Adena prospered in their native homeland for close to a millennium, and lasting traces of this culture remain in the form of their enormous earthen mounds. Deep in antiquity, it is thought that hundreds of Adena mounds existed across their traditional homeland, but only a small number have survived through to the modern era. These enigmatic landmarks ranged in size from as little as 6 feet high to towering masterpieces that reached heights over 90 meters. Considerable numbers would have been required to create such monumental earthworks, all of which were constructed by nothing more than human hands carrying baskets of specifically selected dirt. The purposes behind their construction range from burial structures to ceremonial sites and historical markers. To this day, several enormous earthworks can be seen across the valleys of Ohio, and no one can invoke a sense of awe and wonder quite like the Serpent Mound found in Peebles. Constructed as an effigy mound, it is an enormous earthwork that takes on the form of a snake when seen from above. It stretches for over 400 meters and varies in height from around 1 to 3 feet. The mouth of the serpent opens onto a prominent oval-shaped mound, which is believed to have had an ongoing religious or ceremonial significance. Many questions surround the meaning of the Serpent Mound, but there is little doubt it symbolized some religious or mythical principle for its builders. It's thought that the Adena culture is responsible for this architectural masterpiece. Bill Romaine presented a paper entitled Serpent Mound Project Results 2023, where he goes into grave detail on why he believes the Adena were the original builders. His work provides the results of radiocarbon tests conducted on charcoal of the site, giving a date of around 300 BC, which coincides with Adena's presence in the region. Despite his opinion and work, many are still uncertain as to who truly constructed this marvelous earthwork, and much of its history is still shrouded in mystery and controversy. The Adena would slowly fade into the background like many cultures before them. By 200 CE, this once prosperous culture had disappeared as a distinct cultural group, with most archaeologists believing they may have been absorbed into the later Hopewell culture. However, some researchers suggest there's more to the puzzle, claiming that the Hopewell evolved from the Adena over a period of several centuries. In this manner, the Adena is thought to have drastically influenced the Hopewell culture, which built on Adena's cultural and technological advancements. Nonetheless, the exact reason for their decline remain unclear and could involve factors like environmental changes or social shifts. By 100 BCE, the Hopewell culture arose as a prominent society, primarily located in the Ohio River Valley. Their influence extended to the eastern part of the US. The Hopewell culture lived in villages along rivers and streams. They built dome-shaped houses covered with bark, animal hides, or woven mats. They hunted, fished, and gathered wild nuts, fruits, seeds, and roots to feed their growing population. But they also grew crops such as corn and possibly beans and squash. Building on the advancements made by their predecessors, this prominent culture continued the custom of earthworks and mound periods. However, their monuments far exceeded the size witnessed during the Adena period. The Hopewell became masters of trade, building on the older trade network of their predecessors. They exchanged goods like obsidian, copper, and shells over long distances with peoples in the Ohio and Illinois River valleys, the Great Lakes, the Gulf Coast, and the Rocky Mountains. As time progressed in the Woodland period, the adoption of farming became a common practice, and new varieties of maize, beans, and squash were introduced to many groups across the Americas. This period also saw the emergence of tribal communities, each under the influential leadership of a chief. These chiefs played a crucial role in the organization and governance of their communities. However, the growing population and resulting decline in trade led to an increase in conflict among settlements, paving the way for the turbulent period that would follow over the next millennia. If you'd like to help us keep creating and get early access to our videos, behind-the-scenes content, and other perks, consider becoming a member right here on YouTube or joining us on Patreon. Every bit of support helps. And as always, thank you so much for watching.